Now, before we start, we're going to ask you guys a series of questions. If you find any truth behind the statements we say, please raise your hand. How many of you guys think that Gen Z, which is anyone born from the years of 1997 to 2010, are more rebellious and defiant from a behavioral standpoint than other generations, such as parents, grandparents, and any other generations?
How many of you guys think that Gen Z is more independent than when other generations were at Gen Z's age? When we're talking about independence, this is defined as taking charge of monumental events of adulthood.
How many of you guys think that Gen Z smokes/vapes or does drugs more than other generations at its ages?
And last question, how many of you guys think that Gen Z is more happy and grateful for their lives, the future, and what's to come in our fastly evolving and growing world?
Now, if you raise your hand to any of the questions that we just asked, studies show that you are wrong.
Turns out, Gen Z is not more rebellious or defiant to rules than our predecessors. Our parents used to talk back to others more, push boundaries further, and take hold of crazier activities than we've ever done. Turns out, Gen Z is not more rebellious or defiant to rules than our predecessors. Our parents used to talk back to others more, push boundaries further, and take hold of crazier activities than we've ever done.
We're not more independent than them. If we count independence as those monumental events of adulthood, such as getting a driver's license, getting your first job, voting, and other activities that mark your maturity as an adult, we see a huge decline in how Gen Z participates and goes after those things than previous generations as well.
Drugs. This might be a surprise to you guys, but well enough, drug usage, smoking, and underage drinking have declined a lot. Millennials, boomers, and Gen Xers had a way higher high school drug usage than Gen Z does.
And lastly, is Gen Z more grateful and hopeful for what the future holds in terms of happiness? No, clear studies show that mental health issues, anxiety, and depression have insurmountably increased. And if you haven't picked up on it by now, there seems to be this common trend that these previous generations tend to be the wilder, crazier, more independent life of the party attitudes, while Gen Z is shockingly just the opposite: more tolerable, less crazy, more easily controlled, can be told what to do better, and more sad.
And what's the main factor that caused all of this, you might ask? Well, you guessed it, it's technology. Gen Z is the first ever generation in history to grow up in a society that is submerged into technology from the start. I bet you none of us remembered a time before we had laptops, gadgets, later phones, and all these other technology. We have practically lived in the digital age and had access to all the newest pieces of technology and software from the beginning.
The year of 2010 was when the burst began. The iPad was first released, Instagram had just launched, and the word app was the American Dialect Society's word of the year. From around this time onwards, it was believed that the omnipresence of technology is what increased digital literacy and comfort, which is why we know the world the way we do today.
Technology is no longer seen as a tool to help us achieve tasks, but literally integrated as an everyday part of our lives.
So, what exactly are some of the in depth effects of technology on our generation? Well, on a good note, technology allows us far more connectivity and outreach with the world around us in numerous aspects of networking.
However, negative effects also include social media affecting depression and anxiety rates, changing Gen Zers' perceptions of themselves.
While the effects of Gen Z are never ending and are still of utmost importance, it is time to divert our attention to coming generations as well.
New generations are slowly uprising, and it's time to understand them more deeply, to not only prepare ourselves, but allow us to effectively help them in the future. Learning more about them can allow us to make more informed decisions for their own benefits and needs.
Generation Alpha are children born from the years of 2010 to 2025. They're the first generation entirely born within the 21st century, being the children of the millennials. So, what are some aspects that make Gen Z and Gen Alpha so different from previous age groups?
Members of Gen Z are extremely more diverse than any other previous generation, and they're en route to becoming the most well-educated age group yet. They're also digital natives who have little to no memory of the world as it existed before the internet. They have always had the latest technologies at their disposal and have had a continuous desire for upcoming innovations.
Born during the introduction of the iPad, these children are more comfortable swiping a tablet than speaking to their close adult relatives.
I, for one, have a little sister at Gen Z's youngest age group. She finds more comfort in playing on my mom's iPhone than talking to our older grandparents.
Choosing technology over familiar relationships is only one example of the many ways being obsessed with technology affects how Gen Z functions interpersonally with one another.
Then we have Generation Alpha. Gen Alpha is considered to be the most technologically infused demographic up to date. They are the tech-savvy children whose influence and reputation can make Gen Z nothing more than just an afterthought.
Technology will define them. This generation will have great comfort with technology, such as swiping tablets and clicking buttons or playing music on their new iPhones.
They will quickly understand the situation around them. They're more likely to start dieting at a younger age, believe in healthy eating, and doing regular exercise. They're going to learn how to be independent faster than any other previous generation.
But at the same time, they will present a unique parenting struggle as well. Getting parenting advice and tips to help nurture this vastly differing generation will no longer be easy.
This new generation will require deficient methods due to their differing lifestyle compared to previous generations.
They are going to learn how to be independent faster than any other previous generation. It is important for us to know how to prepare ourselves for the future they will bring.
As these children will already be compassed in everything related to technology, we must also ensure that they are able to develop real personal relationships.
By constantly decreasing screen time and spending more personal time, this will greatly increase their speaking and communication skills with one another. Education will also be a major conflict for this generation.
Traditional methods will decrease, and new methods will have to be implemented for this generation to further succeed.
More workplace learning and hands-on activities will have to increase to reduce finding information online to help them get through classes.
Another large area we must prepare for future generations is the effect mental health will have on their daily lives. Their constant use of technology will drastically increase depression rates among these younger children. Their mental health problems will rise and overall cause many negative health issues among this age group.
This is an essential thought to share because it gives the public more knowledge about the future of their children. Understanding each other's views and values will allow different generations to increase their appreciation of one another. This, in turn, will lead to better communication and collaboration because people are now talking from a sense of appreciation and acknowledgement.
Starting to divert attention to and understanding Gen Alpha will allow parents and teachers to be prepared for what's about to come. They will have the opportunity to help and guide this new generation on the right path. Because this new generation is technologically advanced and seems to put gadgets before personal communication, learning about them can help solve these problems more effectively.
We must know how to handle these problems before they arise. We must spend our time and money into understanding more about these future generations, and we must know how to prepare ourselves for the future, whether it's about health, education, relation, or whatever they bring for our world in the near future.